You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Book Club on theoutdoorstation.co.uk. I'm Bob Cartwright, and in this podcast I speak to author Michelle Waitzman, a Canadian living in New Zealand, about her first book, which is just being released on the world stage, entitled Sex in a Tent. Well, after a little bit of research, I found the perfect track to set the scene.
Dance with me across the ocean floor. Sail away to heaven's open door. Step right up, you're the next contestant in this sweet charade. Take a number, wait while I twist your fate on the mating game. Mating game. On the mating Hold me close enough to drink my rose. The devil in my pocket turned to gold. Sorry to warn you, you're in a daze. Tonight I love you, but tomorrow go away. Step right up, who's the next contestant in this sweet charade? Take a number, wait while I tease you, say on the mating game. The mating game. On the mating
A great track, I think, which sets the scene, and that's the remix of Bittersweet's debut single, The Mating Game, available on Promonet. Yes, sex in a tent. The book is big, it's bright, and it's full of information. Is the subject taboo? Or are us manly types in desperate need of any help we can get when romancing in the outdoors? Author Michelle Waitzman thinks we might be.
The idea for the book actually came to me out of a personal experience. When I first got together with my current partner, the first time we went camping together, we spent the night in his brand new tent. Things were somewhat uncomfortable in there for a variety of reasons, and I remember on our hike out in the morning thinking, geez, somebody should write a book about how to have sex in a tent, because I'd buy it. And it was some time later that I thought, well, I could do some research and write that book if I talked to enough people.
And how have people been when you've been talking to them? Obviously you've cast the net wide, presumably using the internet to reach out to people in different countries that have experienced different experiences in the outdoors. What's the reception been like?
It's been overall very positive and a little bit surprising here and there. I mean, you do get the people who say, well, I couldn't possibly discuss my personal activities in a book. And then there are the people who are, that's fine, just make sure you use my real name because I want everybody to, know who I am. So I've had all sorts, but I've had some surprises where, the people you think, oh, this is a grandmother, I'm, not going to get anything interesting out of her, gets my openers.
Yeah. Well, certainly having gone through the book and looked at all those little snippets and boxes on the side there, it's been a reassuring read to see real people talking their own words. Which I think is important, and explain some of their experiences, some humorous, some not humorous, some a bit embarrassing, as well as obviously the main text.
Yeah, things don't always go smoothly, and whatever happens to you out there, rest assured it's happened to somebody else.
Yeah, well, yes, indeed, and there's plenty of entertainment in that. I think it would be worthwhile making clear to people interested in this book, and I'm sure there will be many interested in this book, that it is fairly explicit in places. I mean, you don't hold back any holds at all, and you do talk about sex toys and the practicalities of keeping them clean and so on, as well as obviously the relationship aspects.
Yeah, it does get fairly straightforward in terms of sex and in terms of things to keep in mind when you're out there. So, yeah, it does get a bit explicit. It's not for the kiddies.
No, it's definitely not one for the scouting group, I don't think.
But there are no photographs. It doesn't need to be kept, in plain brown wrapper on the top shelf.
There are illustrations, but they're very humorous illustrations. I have to warn people, they're great fun.
Nothing too explicit in the illustrations.
No, lovely. Well, what I do like about the book is you're right. I mean, it's very honest. It's very full of candour, and particularly as you introduce the reader to the content, you talk about the practicalities of relationships and relationships in the outdoors. Not even centred around sex, and then we come into the sex part of it, and I think that's a good reminder for people, because when you're used to being in the outdoors, it's often easy to forget that somebody that you might be introducing to a relationship and to the experience are probably quite scared of the outdoors.
Yeah, and it's when you're an outdoorsy person and you hook up with somebody new who maybe doesn't share your past and your experiences, it's important not to go so hardcore on your first time introducing them to camping that they vow to never do it again because they had such a horrible time and you scared them to death and you made them work so hard. So there's a lot in the book about how to sort of ease somebody in who's maybe not comfortable yet.
Yeah, I think it's probably true that most people taking a partner out for the first time will probably be male, and we aren't that considerate sometimes about preparing our female partners for some of the shocks and practicalities.
Yeah, and you really have to know your partner and read your partner's reactions to know, you don't want to be patronizing because, there's some tough girls out there, and we can carry our weight, and we can, help with things, tie knots and put up tents and all that sort of stuff. But there are, of course, the girly girls who would rather, that you offered to carry all the heavy stuff or whatever it is that would make them feel a little special.
Yeah, and again, it is great content. I've found it very stimulating in many respects because you, as you say, you touch on the relationship aspect, and then you actually get into the practicalities of things like, smelling nice and considering the emotions of people that are doing it for the first time, and as you say, not overstretching the ambitions and the activities, and how to keep clean, and the practicalities of keeping clean and keeping looking nice so you can impress your partner.
Yep, and one of the things that that struck me is, it's easy when you're an old hand at this to when your partner's struggling with something to make a joke out of it. And often when you're in an unfamiliar situation, something's gone wrong and you're scared or uncomfortable or in pain, to look across at your partner and see them having a laugh at your expense is the worst possible thing that can happen. So, it's one of those things. It's like, put yourself in your partner's shoes for a minute before you poke fun.
Yeah, definitely.
It may seem silly to you that she's screaming because there's a bee, but maybe she's actually really afraid of bees. Yes, or it's that small little thing at the end of a really, really bad day that's just tipped her over the edge. Yeah. Okay, well, let's just cherry pick one idea from each chapter. Now, chapter 1 is convincing your reluctant partner that camping is fun. So, give me one really good tip for listeners. I think my big tip there would be to start slow. Don't start with a week-long trip. Start with one night in the woods, somewhere that you can drive to, so that the car is there as sort of a security blanket. If things are going horribly wrong, you can always retreat to the car.
Lovely, and of course, when you're planning the trip and actually going out and doing the trip of as we do come on to in chapter 2, planning a trip that won't end the relationship before it starts. So you've got to talk to your partner, and it's a good way of finding out more about the person, isn't it? Absolutely, and what they like to do and how they like to spend their time. And, some people, when they're camping, they like to be nice and quiet and have time to really enjoy the peacefulness around them. And other people like to chatter and like to catch up on things while they're out there. So you have to kind of know what your partner wants out of the experience. When you were researching this, did you find yourself going out to sort of popular camping places and being a voyeur and watching other couples and how they were reacting and sort of recognising some of the things that they were doing wrong? To some extent I was doing that, although of course your personal experience is always limiting because, if I'm seeing another couple, they're obviously aware that somebody else is watching. And they're not going to do or say the same things they would do if they were completely alone. So I relied a lot on, I sent out a lot of questionnaires to people, asking them about their experiences, and I interviewed people asking them about their experiences, and I think that's where most of the different stories came from. So actually, how long has it taken to research this, then? It was the better part of a year, I guess. Yeah. And again, coming to the practicalities of chapter 3, how to keep smelling good enough to kiss. Now, us guys, no problem doing that because we're sort of manly outdoor types, but women tend to shy away from us for some reason. Yeah, there's that especially with that nice polyester stink that happens after a couple of days in the same top. Yeah, lovely. It's a manly smell, surely. It's not quite. It's a different smell. It's much more pungent than the normal manly smell. Okay. Because there's a chemical reaction that happens with camping clothes that makes them smell worse than normal clothes when they get sweaty. Yeah. So what would be a piece of advice then for guys and for girls about keeping to smell good?
two pieces of advice. One is if you're in a situation where there's water and it's warm out, absolutely get into the water and wash off now and then. Have a little swim. That's where people who canoe have a great advantage. They can always go for a swim and get clean. If you are a backpacker and getting into water isn't an option, the thing I've picked up being down in New Zealand is to wear merino wool. Apparently, it takes a lot longer to start smelling bad.
Definitely. It's a very, very good product, that, certainly. Again, back to practicalities, the book, and I know we're coming back and talking about the contents here in detail, but I do think the idea that you've included how to create a romantic dinner for two in a Ziploc bag, quite a nice idea, because it obviously, the content of the book will appeal to hikers, to backpackers, and as you say, canoeists, but also car campers as well. And it's very, very easy sometimes to take things for granted. But the creating the dinner, did you do that research yourself? Is that some of your favourite recipes?
Many of them are my recipes. I love to cook. So for me, eating a nice meal after a day when you've been, lugging around extra weight all across all kinds of terrain all day, that's the reward. It's that great meal when you finally get where you're going. So I've seen people eat some appalling things. One of the great things about New Zealand is they have all of these tramping huts, and then you get to watch what everybody else makes for dinner. And I've seen people on long trips where all they're eating is sort of instant noodles and peanut butter. And I think, I wouldn't last.
Yeah. In fact, I just want to read the opening chapter, the opening paragraph to that Creative Romantic Dinner, because it made me laugh so much this morning. I almost fell out of bed. I was chatting to Rose. My boyfriend Gerhard looks at food and sees the fuel he needs to carry on with his day. I look at food and see the reason to live. Food, for people like me, is a highly sensual pleasure. Yes, we need it to live, but there's so much more to it than that. In fact, the preparation and eating of food is one of the few things in life that involves all of our senses. And as its lusty relationship with eating may suggest, sex is another. Yeah, I've read that and I said, well, what's wrong with just taking granola bars and a bit of chocolate and some noodles? And Rose was disagreeing with me and agreeing with you wholeheartedly.
Yes, it's often the woman who says that, food matters. Chocolate matters a lot.
Yes. Yeah, now you see, that is a wonderful tip. Now, if I'd known that years ago, my life would have been so much easy. Don't just take one block of chocolate for the Friday night and say, well, there you are, there's your treat. You've got to take several blocks of chocolate to keep the girls happy.
There must be chocolate daily.
Yes. Yeah, well, obviously, I know that now. I've been married for X number of years, but certainly at the time I didn't.
Yes, this is an important tip for all single men. If you are entertaining a woman on a camping trip, there must be chocolate for every day of the trip. Possibly for every meal.
Yeah, every meal, certainly. Now, we're on to the juicy bit now. Chapter 5. How to have sex in a tent without destroying it.
Indeed.
Now, I mean, you go into detail, but not too much graphic detail, but enough detail to make one think that really when you take a partner out for a romantic camping trip, you don't want to use a small one-man tent.
Probably not. I mean, if you're small people and you're okay with limited space, then some people do just fine with a one-man tent. Or if you prefer not to be inside the tent, that's fine too. But yeah, a little elbow room certainly wouldn't go wrong.
Obviously, you're Canadian. You're living in New Zealand, and your partner, I believe, is South African. Yes. All three countries have got a fantastic relationship with the outdoors and also the weather that associates enjoyment with the outdoors and the ability to camp out of doors and certainly out of the tent most parts of the year. Over in Europe here, we're a little bit more conservative regarding the weather because it can be a little bit on the miserable side.
Yes.
So we have
New Zealand can be too at times.
But it's a beautiful country, an absolute beautiful country, and but the lifestyle really does support sleeping under the stars, doesn't it?
We certainly try. It can rain, but it doesn't seem to stop anyone here. They just have that attitude that a little rain isn't going to stop them from enjoying the outdoors.
And certainly there's nothing more romantic, if possible, than camping around a campfire and staring up at the stars with your partner, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. No, it's lovely, and it's lovely to be able to share that together, that sort of experience. And
I mean, as I say, you also cover the other aspect, which is the luxury part, as far as possibly we're concerned personally, is car camping. And these days, people seem to be taking every known modern device with them out to campsites. But actually, I'm not too sure whether that actually improves their romantic prospects.
Well, I don't know that it does. I guess it depends again on who you're dealing with. And some people, are into luxury and they want a softer bed, or, they would rather have a duvet than a sleeping bag. And that's something you can do with car camping. You can bring a nice fluffy duvet instead of a sleeping bag. Some people don't like that feeling of the nylon against their skin.
And I think really, if any guy reads this book and then goes car camping particularly for a romantic weekend and doesn't take on many of the suggestions that you make, he really is beyond all hope.
Yes, well, lots of chocolate and a bottle of wine, and you're all set to go, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's a lovely subsection here called Campground Sexual Etiquette. Now, what does that mean?
Well, even if you have every intention of being romantic and having a great time, if you're in a public campground and you're surrounded by other campers, there's a certain decorum that is required of you. And, it's not the place to let it all hang out. So you've really got to be aware of the people around you and be polite, really, is what it comes down to, not force your activities on anyone else.
Be they vocal or mechanical.
Yeah, exactly. Just stay out of the way, be reasonably quiet, and if you can't do that, then go somewhere more private.
Moving on to from car camping onto the water, again, you give a good chapter to the kayakers and the canoeists, who I think have probably got the best of all worlds, particularly in certain parts of the world where they can explore and be fairly remote compared to sort of the traditional hiking and camping routes and the backpacking routes and so on. Is that a particular passion of yours, kayaking?
I enjoy kayaking, but I have not a lot of experience with it. Most of my kayaking has been day trips, and I would love to do more. My partner isn't so keen on it, though. He would rather backpack.
And the particular technique that you've described in the boat in the chapter about making love in a boat or in a canoe, it does sound rather appealing. So I'd love to know where you got that detail from.
A few different places. I did get some feedback from people who I spoke to for the book about how they had gone about it, and also a little bit of internet research. Just a few different sources there.
When you were doing your research, was there anything that actually shocked you and really surprised you?
I don't know about shocked. Something surprised me. There was a couple who said they had actually made love up a tree, and I couldn't quite figure out how they managed that. A couple little surprises. People who said that they always get a pedicure before they go on a trip, and I thought, wow, that seems over the top to have your toenails painted, but whatever makes you happy, I guess.
Yeah. And has the amount of research that you've done and some of the ideas that perhaps you may not have considered yourself when you're compiling them all together, has that put a different spin on your personal activities outdoors?
I've definitely, taken some of the advice to heart, and it has made me think about things that I may not have thought of before, and even things like, people told me how they go about helping each other do things like cross a river and things like that, everybody's got their little tricks, and you might not think of them yourself.
Yeah, I mean it's quite interesting. Certainly the romantic part of. I mean, although the title of the book is "Sex in a Tent," which sounds very blunt, actually there's a lot in here which is practical advice about being courteous and being a positive partner in a relationship, and also maintaining romance, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, especially with people who've been camping all their lives, you sort of grow up feeling like camping is a time where sex doesn't come into it and romance doesn't come into it. It's all being with your buddies or your family or whoever it is that you grew up camping with. And when a romantic partner comes into the picture, you're not quite sure how to combine your romantic life with your camping life because they've never met before.
Definitely. Well, I think the sections where you actually remind us Neanderthal men that there is another aspect to it apart from there. Must get there as fast as possible, as quick as possible, and just eat rubbish food on the way. I think it's an eye-opening book, definitely.
Yeah, there is sometimes an attitude that the faster you get there and the more you suffer, the more successful the trip has been. And usually it's the men who feel that way. And yeah, a lot of women certainly won't enjoy that trip.
I just don't understand that. I really don't understand that.
Suffering, despite popular opinion, is not part of the fun.
Well, it's that men from Mars business again, I think. Definitely.
I think so.
You mentioned some of the practicalities of things like shiwis and moon cups and so on for women. You know, you have gone into detail, and as I say, there's been no elaboration about it. This is what's available for people to help them in certain situations, as much as using sort of wet wipes and such things to keep yourself smelling fresh and clean and so on. And on top of that, you've also sort of looked at some of the romantic campsites around the world, which I thought was a really nice touch.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, that's half the struggle is deciding where to go, I think. And well, this is being published out of America, so there are a lot of American resources there. I also went around the world because I think people who, once you start really getting into camping as a couple, then that's something you can do for your more significant vacations, as well as just getting away for the weekend. You can plan dream trips. You can go to Alaska together. You can go to Africa and camp together. You can go to Southeast Asia and camp together. And those are the really amazing, unforgettable trips.
Yeah, I think one falls into the trap of just doing it in your home country because you're comfortable with your surroundings and where you are and what you can and can't do, that a lot of us probably don't consider it as being a holiday activity when you go to another country, certainly.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the eye-openers of living in New Zealand, is that when you go camping here, you meet people from all over the world who have come here to go camping. And it makes you think, well, gee, you know, there's a lot of places where you'd want to do that. And for somebody from down here, it's maybe a dream to go camping in the Alps.
Yeah, and again, you do cover quite a few countries there and make some suggestions which certainly would open people's eyes. And, I mean, thanks to the internet these days, doing research for people who are interested in taking their partners somewhere different like that is actually much easier, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, to a certain extent, you have to do your homework because you can't rely on, you know, a tourism website to really tell you what it's going to be like. You have to find out from people who have done it.
Yeah.
And with people blogging so much these days, it can actually be quite easy to do that. You can find somebody who's done the exact trip that you're thinking of doing and find out how hard it really is and, you know, what the accommodations are actually like and that sort of thing.
Talking of blogging, I know that you're a blogger yourself and you've got your website, so we must mention that and where your blog is. But how many bloggers have you now found that you sort of tap into on a regular basis to see what everybody else is doing around the world?
It's strangely addictive because I started out just sort of, you know, keeping in touch with friends through their blogs, and now I've got at least a dozen that I check, you know, regularly. And you find some wonderful things. So yeah, it's actually become part of my routine to, you know, check in on on at least a dozen outdoors blogs every day to see what's up.
What I find interesting is the fact that one blogger opens the door to several others, which I hadn't realised were there.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing little network, and you do discover new blogs all the time through other ones that have linked together. And
what is your blog website?
My blog website is lovinatent, all one word, .blogspot.com.
Excellent. Well, you'll have a sudden rush of people, I'm sure, suddenly logging onto there to see what juicy pictures you've got on there.
There's no nude pictures on it. But there are some very pretty pictures on it, so do come by.
The other bloggers then and people that you're reading now, I should imagine I know there's lots of bloggers that listen to these podcasts. They'll be curious to know who they are, who's being watched, as it were, whose lives are being dipped into. Is it predominantly a sort of North American people that you keep in touch with, or do you actually sort of dip into the UK people and the Australians and so on?
I have been keeping track of a few UK ones. I follow Chris Townsend's blog, and a couple of others. And in the States, I follow Two Heel Drive, which is Tom Mangan's blog, along with a couple of other people there. I like the Best Hike blog. They often have some really interesting places to check out, sort of dream destinations. And
I know you did an interview with Chris Townsend, didn't you?
I did, yeah. He was. We were hoping to coordinate something where he would write a little blurb that would go on the back cover of my book, but timing didn't work out, and we didn't get the book to him in time. So that didn't happen, but we ended up connecting so that I could have a little chat with him about his partner and camping together, which was really cool because if you read Chris Townsend's books, it sounds like he's always alone, but he isn't. He has a partner, and they do go outdoors together.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice touch because, as you say, I mean, the impression that one has of Chris is certainly from his books is this, the outdoor man conquering all great distances, carrying whatever he needs to carry, and
a man alone in the woods.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice and honest of Chris to admit that that he does enjoy company.
As most of us do.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. In fact, any trip shared with somebody, I think, is a great pleasure, isn't it?
And I think, for people like that who do so many of these trips alone, I think for me it would be frustrating to not be able to communicate my experience with somebody I loved. It would be, difficult to not share it.
I think it certainly enhances experiences, certainly the experiences we've had. It's always been pleasurable to be able to refer to it in years to come, really, and just remember when, which is really nice. One thing I do like, is, as you conclude the book, is that you give a good sort of range of contacts, and via the internet, obviously, for books and toys and ideas for outdoor couples, as well as resources for heterosexual, gay, and lesbian couples. Plus the camping links, and right down to gear and clothing. Is there anybody that's making sort of what should we say, sexy outdoor clothing at all?
Well, the outdoor clothing companies have finally clued in that people like to actually look good when they're in the woods, and there are a few companies entering the field. One American company called Prana does clothing mainly for rock climbers. That's quite it's attractive enough that if you wandered back into town wearing it, nobody would look twice. And also, companies like Patagonia they're producing thong underwear, which is a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. So people are taking those technical outdoor type fabrics and making things that look kind of hot. Yeah,
and I presume they're obviously gaining in popularity.
Yeah, well, the man who started up Prana said to me, he thought it was one of the smartest things they ever did to start paying attention to their female customers, because he said, if the girls like something, they buy one in every color.
Yeah, very true. Yes, by being surrounded by girls here, that is very, very true. Yes. Well, I know the book is about to be launched across the world. Here we are at the beginning of October. Where can people around the world get it from? I've seen it on Amazon for about in the UK. I think it's about £7.50, something like that. But where else can people get hold of the book?
Well, in the UK, it is on Amazon, and it's being distributed by Cordy, and they should have it into some of the outdoor shops, I'm hoping. And then in the US, it's also on Amazon, of course, and it will be in all of the REI stores. So that's almost 100 stores across the US. And then around the world, definitely available online, has distribution in Canada and Australia and New Zealand in shops as well. So keep an eye out. If your local camping shop carries books and doesn't have the book, ask them, because they should be able to stock it.
And as you've obviously sent advanced copies of this book out to various people around the world, myself being one of them, what's been the attitude and the feedback that you've had from different countries? Has there been sort of a certain response that's been typical of a country? Could you generalise like that?
I don't think there's a typical response. I think, if anything, the U.S., which is funny because this is coming out of the U.S. From the publishers there, the U.S. has had the most concerned response in terms of, I don't know if we can actually show this book to customers, sort of thing. But that's mostly by people who haven't actually seen it. They just see the title and they get a little concerned. But the people who have actually seen the book, who have actually seen the content, have thought, this isn't a problem at all. This will be great. This will sell.
So the Americans have actually been more conservative than anybody else?
Yeah, which doesn't really surprise me. There is a concern always there that that you'll cross a line, that somebody will hold a boycott or something, because people do get up in arms about things very quickly there.
Well, Michelle, I must congratulate you on your first book. It is an absorbing read. I have to say, it's an absorbing read,
Thank you.
and one which will be on my reference shelf for many years to come, I'm sure. Now, this is your first book, and I know that most authors, as they sort of get 2/3 of the way through their first book, suddenly get their idea for the second one. So, do you have anything on the back burner at the moment for the second book?
I am actually working on another book right now, not directly related to this one, but it's a guide for people thinking of migrating to New Zealand, called Living Abroad in New Zealand.
Well, it certainly would be worth making the trip, because I remember from my time in New Zealand that you can never be more than 60 miles away from the mountains or the beach, because it's only 120 miles wide. So I remember going skiing in the morning and swimming on the beach and surfing in the afternoon. I just couldn't get my head around that at all.
It is a unique and wonderful land.
Yeah, and I presume it's still only got 3 million people living in it.
It's up to 4 million now. Yes, 4 million. And it's roughly the same physical size as the UK. So if you can imagine the UK with only 4 million people in it, that's how spread out New Zealand are. Yeah,
I think we've probably got about 3 or 4 million unemployed, actually. So are you planning to stay in New Zealand now for some time, or are you going back to Canada?
I'll be here indefinitely, actually. I haven't quite decided whether I am going back to Canada.
And
I still got a lot of New Zealand to see. Yes.
Are you in the North or the South Island?
I'm on the North Island, but I'm on the south end of the North Island in Wellington. And hoping this summer. Summer is just coming our way, so we're really hoping this summer to do a lot of camping on the South Island and checking out a lot of the national parks down there.
Well, it's a wonderful country, and I wish you all the best in your travels and your camping experiences. And don't forget the manual, to take the manual with you.
Yes.
And to remind yourself, or particularly your partner, exactly how he should be treating you.
Yes, I'll just shout out random page numbers.
Now, what would people be thinking on a campsite when they hear you shouting numbers?
I don't know, but it'd be fun.
Great. Well, lovely speaking to you, Michelle. I wish you all the best.
Okay, thank you very much.
As you heard, the book is available now around the world via Amazon and a select number of distributors. The perfect gift, not just at Christmas, but all year round, to make any outdoor trip more fun for romantic adult couples. For direct links to the book and Michelle's blog, plus the music used in this podcast, see the show notes on theoutdoorstation.co.uk. Whoever said the outdoors is boring? See you next time. Take care. Bye.
This independent programme has been brought to you by The Outdoors Station, the exciting new way to see and hear free information about the outdoors world. If you're a blogger, or if you have a website, you can now incorporate any of these podcasts directly to your site, completely free. Visit our website, theoutdoorstation.co.uk, for more information.